Well, I just think I saw our director join us, Drew
There's
Kessler.
Drew.
Good afternoon, good evening all.
And so Drew, it's 7:31, and before we get started, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Well, Herb and team, thank you so much for putting this on. Really looking forward to hearing from Patrick. He is one of our, while it's not official because we have to get to December 1st, he is one of our newest elected board of director members that will be in the same class as our very own Chris. So this is all really, really good stuff, and just shows how progressive and how we're moving this organization forward with really awesome leaders, both currently and in the future. So exciting stuff. Thank you for all for taking the time to attend. Obviously, this is a topic that should be near and dear to all of us, but you guys are really the ones who are taking it a step further. And it's appreciated. So with that, Herb, thank you again to you and team and Doug for everything you do in the name of membership and all you do to lead us through both our zones. I look forward to hearing from Patrick tonight.
All right, thanks, Drew. Okay, so let's get started. I want to welcome all of you to our quarterly membership seminar tonight. We have a couple of things we want to cover before I introduce Patrick to give the presentation. And the one main thing we want to do before we start off is just to give you information about something that's going to be coming to you in the next week as district governors elect, district governors nominee, and district membership chairs. And so let me share my screen. We are going to, starting in November, as soon as shortly after we get the official numbers from Brian King, which should happen sometime this week, we're going to be providing you a monthly membership forecast. And what it's going to include is a graph of current performance versus history and an end of year membership forecast for your district. So what we're doing is, and we did this last year, we provide you, there's three lines on this graph. The first line, this yellow line here, shows your district's, in this case it's zone 28, but your district's 4-year average performance in terms of relative membership growth since July 1st, okay? The second line on here is the green line. The green line is what we call the success track. And again, it's also based on your district's history. And basically we shift your curve up, and so that you'd end up with a 0.5% increase at the end of the year. So that's what the green line is. And so that's the line we're shooting for. That's, well, of course we want to go higher than that, but let's shoot for that line. And then the blue line that you see on here is the line of where your district actually is with respect to average membership growth. Okay. Now, the one message I want to give you, in this case, the end of year forecast, please look at this. In this end of year forecast, take it seriously. Okay. We did this last year and we were quite accurate in terms of starting around November, December. Of course, the forecast gets better as we get closer to the end, but it's not that far off in November, December, if nothing changes. Okay.
Okay.
So I have a request. If you're not on mute, could you put yourself on mute? And so if nothing changes, then this is very likely where we're going to end up. Now, the way we change it, the easiest way to move this curve is by starting new clubs and satellite clubs. And that's the topic we're going to be covering tonight. Okay. And it's November. In November, we can change things. We can change what's going to happen by the end of the year. In May and June, not so much. that big drop that happens in June, well, it's very likely that that's going to happen. Now, there are things we can do to change that, but it's very likely that that's going to happen in June. And it has been happening year after year after year. And of course, it's due to the fact that it's a financial decision by clubs. Well, we've got these inactive members. We don't really want to pay for their membership next year. So that's a really hard thing to change. But what we can change is what's happening during the year. Okay, so with that, I want to hand this off to Doug, and Doug to talk about Zone 28 and where we are as of October 31st.
Thanks, Herb. So if I can, just to reinforce some of the points that Herb has made. At this point last year, the forecast predicted that Zone 28 would lose over 1,400 members. The actual number at the end of the year was 1,566, a loss of 1,566. So I'm just going to reinforce the point that Herb is making. The prediction that we send to you, don't treat it as 100% accurate, but treat it as a serious indicator of where it looks like you're going to end up. The other point that I just want to, for those of you who are not familiar with a success track and the image that it's trying to portray, is if you look at the green line, our target at the end of the year is a net growth of only 0.5%. For most districts in Zone 28, that's 5 or 10 members. And you're going to think to yourself, well, that's going to be easy to do. But it isn't, in fact, easy. And as you can see, what that green line shows is just how dynamic the membership changes are and how important it is to be attentive to what is happening at any given point in time. This time last year in Zone 28, the blue line was slightly below the yellow line. So this year, the prediction of a loss of over 500 members is actually a significant improvement over last year. It is nowhere near where we need to be, but at least it is more positive than historically. I'm optimistic when I send the note that Herb described out to each of the districts that I am going to be able to show most districts at the very least beating their historic average. A number of districts are above the success track, but I want to emphasize to you the fragility of that. One of the reasons that the blue line, our track this year, is as positive as it is because of the number of new clubs that started the 1st of July. But if you look closely at that, you will see that the line is starting to taper off. So we don't just have to look at what's happening in our clubs, but a key indicator of our performance and improvement is going to be in starting new clubs, and that will just, I'm sure that Patrick is going to reinforce that. So as Herb said, you'll get this monthly. We strongly encourage you to feel free to get in touch if you want to have a look at what that means. If you want to have a detailed examination of what's going on with individual clubs within your district, we have that data and we can help you sift through and sort through where the opportunities for improvement are and so on, and we'll be more than happy to do so. So back to you, Herb.
All right, thanks, Doug. So now here's where we stand in Zone 32. Now, as you know, last year, Zone 32, we had our best year in the last 7 years. We were way above our historical average. Unfortunately, so far this year, after 4 months, we're pretty close to our historical average. And if we look at where we're going to end up, if things continue as they stand right now, we're going to end up about minus 1,000 members. in Zone 32. And we're not going to do that. I know we're not, because I know a lot of you are focused on starting new clubs, but this is reality. This is where we stand today. And one of the things, the last thing I want to mention about this is, I remember last year I would send this out to clubs, and I would have different folks from different districts come up to me and say, Herb, we're going to prove you wrong. Okay. And believe me, there's nothing I want more than you to prove this model wrong. Okay. But that requires action. And usually it requires working with certain clubs, but also starting new Rotary clubs. And the reality is, as of now, after 4 months in our zone 32, we have not started any new Rotary clubs. I know there are some in the pipeline, but as of now, there have been 0 new Rotary clubs started. Either new clubs, new Rotaract clubs, or new satellite clubs. So there's our opportunity. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Louisa to talk a little bit about different types of new Rotary clubs.
So this is really saying, innovate or things are not going to look so great. That you've heard and you've seen the graphs to know that. And I just want to show you a couple of examples just to spark your thinking of some of the kinds of different clubs that we've been seeing over the last little while. And they're from all over the place, not just from our zones, but from anywhere that I've seen an example that I think, oh, that's a little different. That might get people's brains working a different way. Let's show them that one. So here's a slide that just has a few. I'm going to show you a couple of these to just give you an idea of the kinds of clubs that have been coming along over the last couple of years. Not all of these are going to be great. I'm sure some of them are going to disappear in a bit. That's okay. Not everything is going to work. Some of them are going to be amazing, and some of them are going to take off and grow like you can't believe. We know that that's happening. And we're going to watch them and we're going to research them and see how they do. But these are some that you should just know about. So in the middle there at the top, you see there's a club of motorcycling Rotarians. And you might say, wait a minute, I thought that was a fellowship, motorcycling fellowship. Well, it is, but it's also a club of people that enjoy doing motorcycling together, and they do other things at the same time. They would do, well, not at the exact same time, but they do service and they do other things, as does the golf one. Their meetings, shall we say, my understanding is they're playing golf and then they do other things for service and so on besides. You can do that. Those are special interest clubs. You'll see on the top left, there's two, one at the Bentley plant in the UK. Everybody works at the Bentley plant that's in this particular club, or the one below it at a medical campus. So there can be corporate-based clubs as well as corporate members of other clubs, just to give you some ideas. There are some at university campuses as well as health campuses. You'll see a club on the top right there, World Disability Advocacy. That's a global one. Lots of different possibilities there. Let's look at a couple more. Here you'll see Minnesota Pride. They don't use the word club, right? Some of these are called a network. Some of them are called other things. If they choose to not use the word club, that's okay, right? We can do some of those things. You'll see ones that are particular interests like global travelers, or one that's all people that work in the travel industry. Right? That's a possibility. So this is just to kind of get your brain going. And then my all-time favorite is this one, and it's in Australia, and it's only my favorite because it's the cutest. But I also wanted to say, look at how they're leveraging interest in endangered species. They've called it Koala Lovers Rotary Club. That doesn't mean that all they do is stuff about koalas. It means that they're very interested and they're all committed to this particular cause around endangered species. So they've chosen a way to present themselves that's very attractive, obviously, super cute, and gives some really interesting opportunity to engage people and demonstrate we're kind of an irresistible club. You might want to check us out. You might want to check and see if this is the club for you. So just some things to kind of whet your appetite about what is possible. I have one more slide, and that's just thinking about, what are the possibilities for increasing our impact? Because of course, while this is not just about numbers, numbers are a big thing when it comes to looking at membership, it's also really about increasing our impact. And in order to do that, we need people. So what can we do? Well, we can do more of the usual. That's the first one that's there. So we can start more clubs that look like our traditional clubs, maybe in a geographic area that's underserved, or it could be, you know, just a need that comes along. There's more opportunity in a particular geographic area for a traditional, and I've put that in quotation marks. So what we're used to, nothing terribly innovative about it, but nonetheless, certainly helping us increase our impact in an area, with a general focus. And that's what we've been used to. Most of our Rotary clubs have a general focus as opposed to ones that are particularly cause-based or interest-based or set up in another way. We can do more of those. Hybrid, on-site, face-to-face, totally online. All those are possible. Then we know about satellites, and satellites have been one of the most successful approaches to increasing our impact. And those need 8 people to get started, as you know. But here's something you might not know. They don't have to be set up as an intended spin-off down the road. Sometimes that's cause for a little bit of concern within existing clubs that we're going to put all this effort into this. People are going to leave our club to go to the satellite, and then they're going to spin off. Well, you'll hear, I think, more from Patrick about the idea of companion satellite clubs. They're not intended to spin off. They can stay with you forever if they choose to, and you choose to, and that's how things go. So that's just something to think about when it comes to satellites. Passport clubs, those opportunities for people to be engaged in a number of different clubs, meet maybe just quarterly, different way of approaching things that may work in your environment. Impact, I'm not going to talk about that because that's what you're going to hear about tonight with the focus on service. Global membership is another thing that's possible where people can be Rotarians, but not associated with a specific club. And that's starting to be interesting for some folks to look at how they can be Rotary where there's no club available to them or not one that appeals to them at that particular time. And then, of course, we're seeing other interesting things come along, and I put that they're non-quote clubs, meaning they're not using that word, and they may be structuring themselves in a slightly different way as a network, as an action group, perhaps as a giving circle. There's lots of ways that we can think about it. And I wanted to just start this way to get you thinking about the fact that you can imagine, good word for the year, just about anything that may allow you to have a collective of people located wherever they are, who are increasing the impact of Rotary. They are being Rotary in a way that works for them, and you can be part of the spark that makes that happen. So I'm going to stop now and pass it back to have Patrick introduced and take us through the next piece.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Louisa. So it's my pleasure today to introduce to you Patrick Eakes. Now, Patrick is the immediate past Rotary coordinator of Zone 33. And I know there's lots of other history there too, Patrick, but really we want to get to your presentation. And I just learned tonight, and congratulations, Patrick, that you are in line to become the next director of Zone 33. So congratulations, Patrick, for that. Now, the reason why we invited Patrick to talk with you tonight is twofold. One was last summer in Houston, there was a presentation on impact clubs at the Rotary International Convention. And one of the things that really struck me of that, I think it was on a Wednesday morning, which isn't always the preferred time for a breakout session, but the place was packed. And the thing that really amazed me about this was that an hour after the presentation was over, people were still there talking to others about this idea of impact clubs. Not just that, though. When we looked at history, you may know that I like to look at data. And we looked at history of where new clubs were starting across the United States by zone. Well, hands down, the district the zone that has started the most new satellite clubs. In fact, the district that has started the most new clubs overall is Zone 33. And so with that, we just thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to learn a little bit more about impact clubs in particular, in terms of what's been going on in Zone 33, and maybe some other things about new clubs that's been starting in Zone 33. So with that, Patrick, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, my friend. Herb, I appreciate that kind introduction. I am afraid I have to report that Zoom does not offer translation for those of us from the southern part of the US. So I'll ask for your grace in understanding what I'm saying. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along. To help you with that, I do have a few slides and want to be sure. Herb, can you see that okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, great. So I'll talk a bit, but if you can't understand me, you can watch the slides. So as Louisa set up so nicely, we are going to talk about the impact club model. And she described a bit about it. I will tell you that the first impact club started just in June of 2020 in Lenore, North Carolina, which is about the central part of the East Coast of the US. And our regional membership officer told me about this club, and I was a little bit slow on the draw. He said, you ought to check this out. And I didn't really do too much with that. And then he came back to me a couple of months later and he said, no, you really need to check this out. Well, what I learned was after 9 months, this impact club had gone from formation to 70 members. And this was in a community of 25 to 30,000 people, so not a very large city. And I pretty quickly realized that we had lightning in a bottle. So we have been trying to nurture this impact club model ever since. So I'll share a bit about this with you. As Louisa said, impact clubs are hyper-focused on community service. They are not particularly interested in what most of us would think of as a traditional meeting. If they are getting together, they are either planning a service project or they are conducting a service project. They are doing one of the two. As Louisa also mentioned, they don't use the term satellite. So impact clubs, by and large, there are a couple of exceptions, I'll mention those later, but by and large, impact clubs are designed to stay with their sponsoring club in perpetuity. They are companions. They want to be tied at the hip. They want to extend the service aspect of their sponsoring clubs. And from my standpoint, it's fine with me if Rotary International calls them a satellite, classifies them as a satellite, but that they brand themselves as companions. Now, impact club members are, just to be clear, they are Rotarians. And they are, of course, members of their sponsoring club, just like a traditional satellite would be. So, as I said, they focus on service projects. That is one of their chief draws. Because they don't have meals, their price point is much lower, generally under $200 US per year. Because as I frequently tell people, Rotary is not expensive. Food is expensive. That's where the real cost of membership generally lies. So the attraction is focus on service, lower price point. They still have all the fellowship of a traditional club, because any good service project also functions as a social event. The fellowship is there. Much more flexibility instead of having on their schedule, instead of having we meet at this time each week or perhaps 2 weeks a month. They have much more flexibility. They can plug into the service projects that they want to fit their schedule and speak to their heart. I will mention we have seen across the board of impact clubs much higher diversity in their membership in most of the ways that we immediately think of on diversity: age, ethnicity, gender, particularly physical abilities. So why innovative companion clubs? Why impact companion clubs? Well, you heard a bit, I think is quite a good setup that the way we are very likely to move the needle on membership in North America. Yes, we need to focus on our existing clubs. We need to create irresistible clubs. We need to improve the club culture of our existing traditional clubs. But the reality is not enough of our clubs are going to change their cultures enough or quickly enough to solve the membership problem in North America. Drew would be well aware of this, that in the last two realignments of zones worldwide, because we do every 8 years take a look at where the members are, and we apportion the board seats in the zones on a pro rata basis. The last two realignments, we have lost zones in North America. We've lost board seats as well. So stemming the tide in terms of our membership loss is imperative to those of us who want North America to still have its best voice in the governance of our organization. So this innovative club effort was started in January of 2000 by the 5 North American Rotary International directors, and that included Valerie Wafer, who represented you all at that time. So we were sent out, of course, this was just before a pandemic, but we were sent out to really experiment, to create these new clubs. And for my money, impact clubs have been the quickest starter out of those new types of clubs that you see. So again, I think it's the key to new member growth. We've been able to reach new parts of our community based on the items that I mentioned before. People who can't take 2 hours to go to a traditional meeting at the same time every week, people who want a lower price point, people who want to spend their time doing meaningful service. That's where they want to, where they want to put their time. So I'll also mention in terms of why impact clubs. The founders of the impact club model provide really, really strong support to sponsoring clubs who are interested in just investigating the impact club model. And they have a 5-step process that they'll take you through if you go all the way to creating a companion club, an impact club. So I put together this really nice graph to show. No, I'm kidding. Herb and I are both recovering engineers, so this was just for Herb and me and any other engineers. I'm not gonna take you through a graph, but they did create a 5-step process, and I'll show you exactly what they do. Just a 30-minute call to see if the goals of a sponsoring club align with what an impact club is all about. Second step, if those goals are aligned, is to have a meeting, typically virtual, with the board of directors, the potential sponsoring club, to be sure that they understand what's involved, what an impact club is, the reasons to have one, the benefits. If in fact it makes sense to move forward, then they will help preliminarily prepare paperwork to establish a satellite club, and they'll conduct sales training. Now, they're not going to teach you how to sell hammers or cheese or anything like that. They're going to teach you about membership attraction. And I will tell you that the person who really is the prime mover on creating impact clubs is a master salesperson. There's no question about that. Once they hope that there will be 15 members at the point of launching the impact club, because they want to be able to really make a splash in the community. They'll help you submit the paperwork to RI to set up the satellite club, as RI would call it, and to help you plan a nice induction ceremony. And then actually conducting that ceremony, and then helping support you after the fact to be sure that your impact club gets going. Now, their success so far, they've established 13 impact companion clubs. This is in just over 2 years. They have established 2 standalone clubs. Now, that's not their traditional model, but in a couple of cases that has made more sense than to have a satellite. So 15 impact clubs that are established. There are 38 that are in some stage of formation. One just put in paperwork this week. It's in Trinidad that will establish the 16th impact club. But to give you an idea of the interest level, the 38 clubs that are in some stage of formation are in 25 districts and span 9 time zones, and are not limited to North America. One of the established clubs is in the Netherlands. There is another club that is very close to putting in its paperwork to apply for satellite status, that is in the UK. Now, Herb mentioned before that we had a breakout session at the Houston convention. We had one of the large rooms. So we had a room that would hold 400. And I'm told that, I mean, I know that we filled that room, but I'm told that about 150 people were turned away. And I've had at least a dozen people tell me they couldn't get in the room. But as he mentioned, we not only did our hour presentation, we stayed for 75 minutes after that until finally a couple of us had to leave for other commitments that we had. So there is great interest, and it seems to be only ramping up and not slowing down. So I hope that some of you on this call might want to take a next step and find out a little bit more. I'm going to just quickly flip through some of the projects. And I apologize because I don't think that all the captioning is real easy to follow, but this is the original Impact Club and a youth camp that they do in the summer. Flags for Heroes. This is in West Virginia of the United States. This is actually the chartering celebration for the club in the Netherlands, which was very special. You can tell it's the Netherlands by all the orange backgrounds because they're so fond of that color. There's a trash pickup with a club that is just outside of Columbia, South Carolina, the capital of South Carolina. This is in the mountains of North Carolina, a 5K race that they do. And then a couple of projects that are taking place generally in the Charlotte area of North Carolina. One of which was a supplies drive. This is a diaper bank. And this diaper bank now, as I understand it, speaking to a future governor there, he told me that they're in the range now of having on hand and distributing 40,000 to 50,000 diapers. Now, to give you an idea, I told you how this model is kind of exploding. We were fortunate to have John Huco, Rotary's General Secretary and Chief Executive Officer, join us at our Zone Summit about a month ago. Ours was, I think, about 2 weeks after you all got together in Toronto. And I snipped a little bit out of his speech. He talked about things that keep him up at night. Some of you may have heard part of the speech, but he dropped a full 5 minutes into his speech because he met Patrick Longano, who's the founder of the Impact Model, was so taken with him, he dropped about 5 minutes into his speech. I'm not going to play you the full 5, but I've got about 3 minutes. The sound is a little bit low on this, and I'll mention that there's a little bit of a sync issue between the audio and the video, but I'll invite you to listen to this for about the next 3 minutes.
We can do things differently by either improving the product that we have or offering new products that the market finds appealing. And so for me, this means in practice, growing Rotary through new and innovative club models. Of course, if club is doing well, there's no need to change. If the traditional model is working for a given club or a district or region, there's no need to change. And we see many regions around the world where the traditional model is still extraordinarily appealing and doing very, very, very well. There, of course, you don't need to change. And of course, as Jeffrey also mentioned, there's, what can never change, what's immutable is our core values. And that's the 4-way test, the focus on service, fellowship, ethics, integrity. Those things can never change. That's the essence of Rotary. That's our DNA. But meeting frequency, for example, in my view, it's not a value. Ringing a bell or singing a song are great things, but they're not the value. That's not the essence of what makes Rotary. Rather, those are, in my view at least, the vessels through which we deliver our values. And again, we're finding that that vessel that we offer to the public is no longer as attractive as it used to be. And so now we have great flexibility, tremendous flexibility that clubs and governors have that come into play. There's no Rotary police, as I like to say. And so when we preserve our core values while at the same time utilizing this flexibility and creativity that we have both with our current clubs and establishing new clubs, we've shown that we can have great success. The passport clubs are mushrooming all over the place. They don't comply with the rules. I just ran into, earlier in the summit, ran into Patrick Longano of the Rotary Club of Foothills in North Carolina. He updated me on these new impact companion clubs that are being created. And they're taking the satellite model and giving it a little bit of a tweak, because a lot of clubs are concerned, why would we set up a satellite model which is only going to result in clubs breaking away? Instead, they're setting up a companion club. You're a member of the home club, you pay the dues, you pay the RI dues, but you don't need to go to meetings, but you can go to service projects. And so it brings in people who want to be part of Rotary but don't have the time to go to weekly or bi-weekly meetings. And now there are 14 impact companion clubs in 3 zones, and 36 more are in the works. So I know, Patrick, if you're here, if you could just stand up. Reach out to Patrick if you're interested in finding more about this, because this is the kind of innovation that we need to do.
So as you can see, this impact model clearly got the attention of our CEO, and more recently, another top person in Rotary, who I think you'll recognize
We can do things
on this next slide. Whoops. You'll see there our president nominee, Stephanie Yurchik. Her club launched an impact companion club just 2 weeks ago, actually almost 3 weeks ago now. She made sure that she was there. She was integral in being sure that this club launched. So this is serious stuff. That particular club that launched, that's sponsored by Stephanie's club, interestingly had a number of partners of members of the sponsoring club who said they were not interested in joining their spouse or partner in the main club. They were very interested in the impact club and focusing on service. So there were 5 or 6 partners. There were a couple of children. I think there was even a parent of a member of the sponsoring club who got involved. That club has already got 20 days in, has got 17 members. So they are already off to the races. So I'll give you contact information for me here. You'll see my email address on this slide. You'll also see, and I think Louisa provided this before, the website, main website for impact clubs. So take a photo of that if you'd like, or certainly I can provide this deck to Herb to distribute for anybody who's interested. So that's the main part of what I prepared to share with you all tonight. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Herb, you're muted, sir.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Patrick. So I'm hoping we have some questions, and 2 ways to ask questions. Either you can raise your hand or put some questions in the chat. So let's have some questions for Patrick here.
Hi, Herb. This is Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi, from Southern Maine. My question, thank you, Patrick. That was very encouraging. What I wanted to ask is if it's a companion club of another club, who counts the numbers? I mean, because they're chartered, so they have their own number. Can you explain that? Because that gets foggy.
Sure. So the satellite club is considered part of the sponsoring club. So
Correct.
Typically, if you see a report from Rotary that will list the number of members in each club, you will not see the satellite broken out. You will just see the sponsoring club with a number that includes those who are going to the main traditional meetings, if you will, plus those who are in the satellite club.
Thank you.
Okay. So next question, Elliot Rittenberg.
Thank you, Herb, and thank you, Patrick, for a great presentation. My question is there a way that we figured out to allow members from more than one sponsoring club to be a member of an impact club?
Are you asking if someone can be a member of an impact club and another club?
Well, I understand that that's the definition, right? If they're a member of an impact club that's sponsored by another club, they're technically a member of the sponsoring club.
Right.
But I'm thinking that these impact clubs are cause-based, so there may be an opportunity to draw members from clubs in close geographical proximity to each other and support a cause-based movement within that geographical area.
There are certainly cases where surrounding clubs, those who are in close proximity, are jumping in and participating in the projects and they're collaborating together. But I don't think there's any facility for a person who is a member of a different Rotary club to also be a member of that impact club. That would represent being a member of two clubs at once, which there's no provision for that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to add to that. One of the things I've seen when members want to be part of two different clubs is they can be an honorary member of one and an active member of another. So that's one possible solution to that.
The motorcycling club that Louisa referenced before, that I know several people who are honorary members of the motorcycling club, but their true Rotary membership, active membership, remains with the club they've been with for years.
Right. Okay. Any other questions, Elliot, before I go to the next? All right. Thanks, Elliot. All right. So next we have DG Juliet. So Juliet.
Yes, hi there. Thanks for a great session. So I'm still having a difficulty in my mind differentiating an impact club from a traditional club, because traditional clubs do a lot of service, at least the ones I'm familiar with, including my own. So are you saying that an impact club is different because it just doesn't have a traditional type of meeting with a speaker? Or is there something else? I'm not sure how I would sell this kind of club to a traditional club that has plenty of service going on.
Well, that of course may be determined by how we define plenty of service.
Okay.
And there are traditional clubs that are pretty active on service. I have seen impact clubs say, you know what, this month we're going to do a service project every day. They'll pick a month and say, we're going to do 30 days of service, which would outpace any traditional club that I've ever run into. But on an average basis, the impact clubs are doing service projects at a faster pace than the average traditional club. And you're right. So the difference is the lower price point with the absence of meals, not spending time in a knife and fork kind of setting like most of us on this call probably do. And look, I still love that, right? I still love that experience with my club and with my friends in my club. But there's so many people who are not reaching right now, who they don't want that, or they can't afford it, or they just have too many demands on their time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Juliet. Okay, our next question comes from Collier in Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick, for enlightening me on this. I'm curious as to, is there any, because of the lower price point and not so 2 hours at a lunch meeting, are you seeing any cannibalization? And then also, how did you decide between a satellite versus a Rotaract? I get confused on why not set up a Rotaract for that.
Yeah, the question of cannibalizing from a sponsoring club is one that comes up quite frequently with satellites. And as Herb mentioned, we have generated a lot of satellite clubs in Zone 33 over the last 2 years. We have not seen cannibalization even among traditional satellite clubs. I mean, for instance, my own district last year formed 5 satellite clubs just within that one district. And I think we had something like 24 or 5 across our zone. We've not seen that be a problem even in that situation. But part of the reason for calling this a companion club is to just explicitly say, we're in this together. We're not here to try to get to 20 members and to break off. We are here with you. And so that they try to explicitly address at least the fear of any kind of cannibalization by making that very clear. Now, Rotaract versus Impact, although there are no firm ages on Rotaract membership in terms of limitations, I think the expectation generally is as people move out of however you define young professional is that they maybe move away from Rotaract. And so we see much more diversity of age in the impact clubs. We see people who are 20, 21 years old, and we see people who are 75 years old, who all have that common heart for service. So I think that's probably one of the chief distinctions.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Phyllis.
Hi. We're doing, so I've been starting an impact club for District 7010. And we were calling it a passport club, but then we put in that we're impact club because we're operating like an impact club. And of course, I hadn't heard this presentation. So it's sort of like, oh my God, we're already there. Anyway, so we have had 4 meetings and 1 social, and it's a district wide. And what's really interesting is there's only been 2 members, myself and another member, who actually have come from Rotary clubs. But all the other members, most of the other members are actually past Rotarians. Some have been out of Rotary for 14 years that really are excited about this. And so we've been meeting on Zoom, although we had up in-person social because we're a district. And what we found is that we just really get down to business. And we're meeting Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock, and it just moves. It's so fast. And so we've got 20 people already who are interested, and we've only done 1 membership drive presentation. So we're moving ahead, and we're trying to be very focused. So we've identified our 3 areas of focus, and we're saying, this is not forever. This is what we're focused on right now, and we're really clear, and we can spit them out, and that's where we're targeting is leaders within those sectors. And so we're very hopeful. And so I'm really happy with this presentation, and certainly our experience sounds exactly what you're speaking of. And we're going to focus on how we can also, because we're at a district level, look at not only working with local clubs, but look at the big broad picture thinking, and also focus on areas where there aren't Rotary clubs, and be the vehicle that helps drive bigger projects forward. Not necessarily being, right on the ground all the time doing, although there'll be some of that as well.
It sounds fantastic, and it's another good example of the fact that we as leaders, it's our responsibility to go out and meet would-be Rotarians where they are. It's not their responsibility to conform to the way we've done Rotary for the last 115 years. So I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you. Okay, next we have John.
Well, thanks, guys. What fees does somebody in a companion club pay? They're connected to a traditional club. Do they pay the same fees or a reduced fee?
Well, just to be clear, when I talk about the fees, what I'm really talking about is the dues exclusive of the meals. So
gotcha, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, the dues run about $175 a year, US, in the range of $15 US per month. And that allows a companion club to pay district dues and to pay the international dues and the other assorted fees that go with those international dues.
So the companion club pays a bare bone fee structure to the host club. So which just covers the RI and the district.
That's right.
Insurance assessment, that type of thing.
That's right.
It doesn't cover off any costs that the host club might impose.
Typically, that is the case. Yes.
Okay. We have had, I've got at least 1 club in our district which has a membership structure where they call them associate members. And they pay a reduced fee, but they don't get to vote and they don't attend all the meetings, and this club doesn't focus on meals anyway. So it sounds like we're very much along the same lines of thought there. And the other one I've been trying to promote is having clubs look to their what we used to call them Friends of Rotary. They'd come out for all of the fundraisers and all the service projects, but not the meals and that part. So I'm going to continue promoting that because I think that is what you're talking about.
It sounds like philosophically it's very similar. My own club has what we call an active service membership. People can come to the meetings with the meals. They can pay a la carte for those meals, but otherwise they have joined for service and they pay more of a bare bones fee structure. So, and look, part of the charge from Rotary International, certainly from the 5 North American directors who set this innovative club mission, was go out there and test, go out there and see what works, keep up with each other, share best practices, share your failures, and let's learn from each other, and let's try to do our best to reach deeper into our communities.
Okay, no, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks. There's a comment here about similar to this question here. Says if the satellite members are in fact members of the host club, wouldn't they be obligated to pay the fees of the host club, perhaps with a reduction for mandatory meal fees?
So,
you want to comment on that?
yeah,
or?
so 2 comments on that. One is some clubs will refer to dues, and dues include the meal charge. So I always try to be careful to delineate between dues and meals, you know, the fees associated with Rotary and the cost of food. The second thing I would say is it's a bylaws issue. So clubs can very easily adapt bylaws that provide different types of membership types, or in the case of the operating agreement for a satellite club, can very easily say this is how these folks operate, and other members of our club operate differently. It's not that different than the rule of 85 that we've had for many years that exempts those members from having to pay for meals.
Yeah.
Not that different at all.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, Herb, I'll go ahead and address Peter's comment as well.
Sure.
About rebranding an existing club. That has happened. So there was a club that had drained all the way down to about 9 members. They saw what was happening with Impact and they said, we want to be an Impact club. Well, the founders said, okay, you're not a companion club. You're already a standalone club that's down to 9, but we're going to work with you. And that club in 18 months has gone from 9 members to 40 in a really a pretty modestly sized community. So yes, that rebranding and adapting the practice and the philosophy of Impact clubs can work. It certainly can for a club that already exists.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. Marty from District Governor from District 7230.
Thank you, Herb. Patrick, thanks for a well-organized presentation and presenting some evolved thinking beyond the early satellite club thoughts. Wrapping my head around this, the 2 types of companion clubs. The true companion club to me is a sell obligation to the independent or individual clubs that would possibly be suffering with lower membership, and see the influx of members as the greatest part of the plus. The standalone club, I think, is more interesting and more complicated and more challenging. And the reason is I see that as a sell to the neighboring clubs in the vicinity of the standalone club, presenting them as an asset pool to these clubs for increasing the impact of their local service. And to that end, I was wondering, you mentioned a goal survey, a 30-minute call. And I was wondering if you might consider reverse engineering that to be a survey that we can bring from our membership team at the district level to the neighboring clubs of a standalone club in formation or already in existence, and see if they can react to the existence of the standalone club in a positive manner and eliminate any thoughts of competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think we frequently see the fear of competition, you know, as if most of our Rotary clubs have already completely blanketed the community. You know, we know that's almost never the case, but it is a fear, and we as leaders have to address that. So yeah, I mean, I think what you're talking about would be a legitimate approach to try to develop that survey and to try to understand what you may be up against in terms of challenges to starting an impact club. And if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to connect you to the real engine behind the impact club movement and for further discussion.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, I'll in case you didn't get my email before, I'll drop you a note or I'll just go ahead and put my email for everybody to contact me.
Okay, well, all right, I'll take these last two questions and then then I think we're going to be at the end of our hour. So the next question comes from Paul.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody. It's a great presentation. Maybe I should know the answer to this, and maybe it was mentioned, but paperwork is always one of the intimidating factors for clubs that want to start up, and particularly the newer clubs, the newer forms of clubs like Rotaract and Impact Club. So I'm wondering, does RI have in place already prepackaged constitutions, bylaws, and certifications that are user-friendly and ready to go, such that you could, during this survey or during these meetings, you could say, here's how easy it is to start up a club and have it like readily accessible? I'm just curious. I have a package for a Rotaract club, and everywhere I go, if someone talks Rotaract, I can bring it out and say, here's what you do. So do you have all these types of clubs?
Well, so the sponsoring club has, of course, a constitution that it must abide by. It's a standard Rotary Club constitution, and then there's suggested bylaws. Typically, the Impact Club or any satellite club will have kind of a stripped down bylaws that frankly can't be in conflict with the sponsoring. It has to be complementary, if you will. And if there is any disagreement between the two, the bylaws, the governing documents of the sponsoring club is what prevails. So I don't know that I've seen any kind of standard satellite bylaws that are out there, but they're usually drafted off of the suggested bylaws for standalone clubs.
Each club or each individual has to do that on their own. There is no standard.
Not that I've seen for satellite clubs, although I will tell you, at least at our zones, we have an innovative club webpage that has got all kinds of resources, and we may have something there. I know we've got bylaws for dealing with family memberships and corporate memberships and lots of other types of innovative membership initiatives.
Thank you.
And that is,
All right.
I'll put that website.
Yeah,
here.
we can share the Zone 33 website. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Zone 33 has an excellent website with many resources. So
Yeah, I've had more than one RI staff member say, may we refer people to your website? I'm like, sure.
Sure, absolutely. We had a webinar at noon today, RI webinar, and we were sharing the Zone 33 website at that meeting. One more question, Drew.
Yeah, I thank you very much for the presentation, because it's a great idea and it's a great concept. With this club that you set up, I'm assuming there's board of directors and everything that goes along with that. Since they now become a cause-based club, what do they do from a fundraising perspective if they want for their projects that they are working on? And where does that money have to flow through the sponsoring club?
Okay, the first part of that, in terms of board of directors, the answer is generally no, because as a satellite club, they're not required to have a board of directors. I will tell you that I strongly encourage a sponsoring club of an impact club to create a board seat or two board seats for the impact club leaders, if you will. That helps keep that close connection between the two of them. In terms of fundraising, they're pretty much like any club out there. I mean, if they want to do something ambitious enough to require funding, then they've got to attract that. But what I would tell you is what I've seen with the Impact Club so far is they're growing at such a rapid pace, and they are drawing so much attention that they're finding community partners who are coming to them with resources, be they funding or contacts or conduits to funding, or just partnership in terms of, we need your manpower, your woman power, to assist what we're already trying to do. So that has not been a big issue so far, but should it become one, they'll be like almost any operating Rotaract or Rotary Club, where they've got to raise the money.
right? So then what happens is your sponsoring club is still the controlling aspect of the new club and the cause-based club. So they still have direction and say over how this club goes and what they work on.
It is true that if there is conflict between a sponsoring club and a satellite / companion club, that sponsoring club has the bigger stick, if you will. They still have the ability to prevail in any type of disagreement. But you know, that's part of that 5-step process, is to be sure that the governance of a sponsoring club or a potential sponsoring club understands what this relationship should look like going forward, to try to iron out those issues before they become a big deal.
Perfect.
I will tell you that in terms of the funding, most of the time the sponsoring club will handle the billing and such, but some of the impact clubs handle it themselves, and they collect the dues and then just sort of lump sum it to the sponsoring club. And I'll also mention that impact clubs, they are very close to launching a mobile app that will make a lot of this easier, so that their members can just do a quick pay through the app, and that they can do notifications of service projects through the app. That it's, you know, it's because they don't have a whole lot of the types of meetings that we're used to. The mobile app will be part of what helps them stay connected as members in a companion club.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
All right. Well, thank you, Patrick, very, very much. Certainly you generated a lot of interest, a lot of questions. And we really, really do appreciate your being with us tonight. I did get another question about, or another request about the slides. So Patrick, if you could provide me the slides, so when we send out the recording to everybody who read, well, actually not to everybody who registered, but to everybody who the district governor line and the district membership chairs will also include the slides in there. So,
Herb, for a generous donation to an impact club, I'm sure I can get the slides to you.
okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Well, in closing, one more minute here and we'll be on our way. I just want to share with you, if I can share my screen, our next membership seminar, our Zone 3228, will be in January. Currently, they are scheduled for, the Zone 32 is scheduled for Tuesday, January 10th at 7 p.m. And Zone 28 is Wednesday, January 11th at 8 p.m. As you know, this time around, we combine them together. We may do the same in January, no guarantees on that. But as of right now, they're separate on separate days. Now, one of the topics we are definitely going to be covering is this survey we're doing across the United States and Canada on clubs with a consistent growth culture. We've gotten all the coordinators across the USA and Canada to help us administer this survey to over 300, I think it's over 310 clubs that have had consistent growth over the past 5 years, and understand what some of their characteristics are. The survey is out right now. We will definitely have the results of that by January, and we'll want to share that with you. And we'll probably have another topic as well. So with that, I'm going to ask my my friend Doug Logan if he has any closing comments.
Nothing more beyond saying thank you all very much for participating. A special thank you to Patrick, and congratulations for your humongous promotion. The pay, I'm sure, is going to be spectacular. And anyway, so thanks all very much. It was a great session.
All right. Thank you, guys, and good night.